So we're back at the 2019 Othello World Championship, and we're looking at the final game 2 for the finals on table 1, and we also have the women playing on table 2 for their final as well. So if we could just introduce who will be the commentators on the live stream right now, and then we'll get started.
Okay, well, we have Nikki van den Bigelaar.
Hello.
And we have Kuniko Tanida.
Thank you. Hello.
Okay, and I would normally introduce Tanida-san as the youngest world champion, but it's not true anymore.
Yeah.
That's since last year.
Yeah.
So for many years he held the record as the youngest world champion.
Yeah.
So after the first game, which was really exciting between these two, we're going into the second game. Akihiro needs to win this to extend the final into the third game. But if Yusuke wins it, then the match is over and Yusuke will be the new world champion. So they've just shaken hands and about to start. You have to double tap, Nikki.
Okay. I'm not still learning.
Yep.
So Akihiro chose diagonal opening. He's the kind of player who plays both perpendicular and diagonal opening, while some player plays only perpendicular, others only diagonal. He plays both.
Okay, they're going pretty fast.
Yeah.
And very often, when the diagonal open is played, white. So it's the move 2 we're talking about here. Move 1 is the same wherever it's played on the board. It's just rotationally symmetrical. Move 2, white has an option, 3 options. The parallel is rarely played, sometimes it is, and that's straight alongside the original black move. Perpendicular is obviously perpendicular to it, and the diagonal is diagonal across it. What often happens when white plays diagonal is that white takes a block of pieces, and that block of pieces minimizes his opponent's move, not by playing quietly, but by just making all his pieces in the same place, so that if black then takes those pieces, he's needing to take a good number of them at the same time. And this did happen in this game, but they've played so quickly that it's progressed beyond that point already. But there's an interesting general point there that you want to minimize your opponent's options and maximize your own options. And normally it's done by playing moves which take few pieces and they're central and they're hidden. Another way of doing it is taking a block of pieces so that all of those pieces are just blocked together, and if your opponent takes any of them, he takes a good number of them.
So, are they still in book, you think? I'm not sure.
Well.
They still play pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still in book.
Yeah. I think I am familiar with this opening.
I've never seen it.
Actually, I once have played this opening against Takanashi before.
As white?
What colour was black?
As white.
Did you win?
Yes, yes.
Okay, nice.
It's very rare win.
So Akihiro's preparation was watching your game with him.
Yeah. Yeah, what is important about this opening is black to play f7 afterwards, threaten white to black f7, and then black
It
is
looks really
trying
strange.
to make h3, but white will leave this right h position. Black will play h3 and white play h6.
He has to take it.
Without hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting opening.
I love the way that you're talking this far into the game.
Yeah.
You're still saying, oh yeah, I know this position.
Is it something they've played before? this tournament or
Mhm.
against each other?
I'm not sure. Maybe not.
But to me, this is well into the mid game.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely. For most of us, I think.
And that there's been some unusual moves in it as well. So that's a nice thing about people who do good opening preparation, is that sometimes interesting moves can be played because you wouldn't normally register it when you're looking at the board if you're playing it as a mid game, because it doesn't look immediately good and you might dismiss it quite quickly. But if you've prepared with a computer, then you can find some interesting moves and play them with confidence. In this case, the edges have been played out, and Akihiro needed to take the big move at h6, which he did without thinking. He needed to do it, but he was aware that he was getting into that position before he got there. And if I was looking at it before reaching that point, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have played out the right hand edge in that way, because I wouldn't want to do that move. So his confidence that that move was okay came from preparation, and it's impressive. So what are the features of this position now then?
It's White's turn. I think he leaves f7 black. I don't think he moved something like f8 or something.
Yeah.
So you would go to the west. Which move comes in mind first is probably b6.
Yeah. Yeah, as you predicted.
Or he might steal a move.
Yeah.
Quick answer.
So is Yusuke still in book now?
Yeah.
He played
I
that
think
very,
so.
he played that very
Yeah.
quickly, and it gives an
Probably.
obvious white response.
Yeah.
So he was aware that that white response is there,
So,
and is obviously comfortable with it without thinking.
so now e7 looks really
Obvious.
obvious, yes.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the trick of not playing it.
Yeah. The fact that Yusuke
Yes,
played d8 so quickly and so confidently means that Akihiro needs not to rush into e7, because Yusuke is obviously aware that he gave that move, and
it's a mind game.
yeah.
Yeah.
He
doing
does
it
it
anyway.
anyway. Yeah, quick response again.
Yeah.
So Takahashi probably out of book then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So now what?
As white.
Now the hard part starts.
Well, black's got the nice move to b4,
Yeah.
and not a lot white can do about it. He can take it away immediately, but black will probably take the bottom edge if white plays f8.
Yeah,
And
maybe
get it
something
back
like
again.
a4 now as white. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really looking that great after black's b4.
White a4 seems good. Yeah.
Yeah.
White a4, black
Black
b4,
yeah.
and white f8, black c8, white b8 to get an access to a3 for white.
So
Yeah, f8, g8, b8.
Yes,
Then yes,
that's what I said. Yeah.
d6 disc white to go to a3.
Yeah.
do you want to show that on the board?
If you tell me how.
You just touch.
Yeah.
So you just,
yeah,
just
yeah,
play,
okay.
and then you can move backwards. Move up.
It's like this, then
Oh, but Takahashi played otherwise. b2.
it's pretty.
Let's go back.
And yeah,
And that's another
Oh.
interesting move that's not easily
Yeah.
registered.
it's not what you have in mind at first. You
But
would
again,
consider other
he
moves.
didn't spend too long thinking
so
about
he
it.
might- Quick response again. They're going really fast.
Yeah. Black should play a5 as he played. Otherwise, if black played b3 before a5 this square open, after black b3, white will come to a5 to keep c3 white disk.
Like this.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have we got
Okay.
the analysis board up, by the way? Okay, cool. Thank you. Just
So
thought I'd
that
better
keeps
check.
diagonal
Yeah.
white,
Okay, white is played.
and you can only cut it
White played.
by playing g7 yourself.
Yeah. White played a6.
Let's go back.
Still moving very quickly. It's worth pointing out here that between them, so far they've used 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And they've reached this
Mhm.
position, and they had 40 minutes each. So
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah.
Tendency to get down into the last minute consistently in
Yeah.
his games may not be true on this occasion.
You can still cut it with a3. I like
Yeah.
it does.
The idea is to keep c3 disk white.
Yeah.
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 So,
you probably saw this coming, or he knows the position.
We were looking at this in another game where someone had taken a major diagonal, in this case white, black couldn't get into the corner immediately, and they started fighting over the cut.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case it was the c3 disc that was being cut.
Okay, he can still play something like f8 to cut it again, but
Wow.
it's hard to keep
Hard
it
to read after.
white.
Wow. It sounds cool if it works.
Yeah,
But if
but Yusuke looks so confident.
yeah, but if white played to f8, black may come to b7.
b7, yeah. But then you
Yeah.
still have h7.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's like... you can cut it with a7. Even
Yeah.
then,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, eventually.
this. Then he's back on the diagonal,
Mm-hmm.
which cuts d4.
Yeah.
But that's still close.
Yeah, still close, but it sounds better for black, I guess.
We don't want your
Yeah.
guesses, we want your full assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they are so long in book, it's probably a close game anyway. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Any bets on the draw?
you think? What was the
Well,
score of the first game?
just the fact that they're both playing so quickly and confidently
Mhm.
makes me think that it's close.
And maybe he's more confident with playing white, so he is fine with the draw now. But what else can he do? Just h7? But then black takes the corner with a1.
Yeah.
And then white plays a2.
Yeah, like this. And then probably h1,
H1,
Yeah, and then
and
h8.
h8,
H8,
g2,
Yeah.
something like
Z2,
then
C8.
Next to the corner.
and g8.
Yeah.
He can also play a7 now, but does it
yeah.
really matter?
It's possible, but I would take f8 to
F8, yes.
keep black f5 and f6.
Yeah. We're,
Looks parity to me.
we almost
Yeah.
finished the game.
Almost.
It's like
And that's one of the reasons that they could,
this.
which is
I don't know. Can I see the score? Or
okay.
It's
He's
just
played
a
your
draw.
move. He's played your
Oh,
move.
yeah. Your move, Nikki. White
my-
played f8.
So this was back to the game. It's
So again, white has taken the main diagonal from b2 down to g7, and the players are fighting over black trying to cut it and white trying to stop him from getting on that diagonal.
I cannot
Right.
move my board now.
It says it's black's turns.
For an amateur, it's really
Yes.
interesting for me to look to see the difference between the number of moves played
Forwards.
in the final versus if we
Something
look at game
Oh.
number 2 for the women's final.
Can
There's
we replay
very
again?
few moves that have happened so far.
Yeah, and in this case, it's to do with the opening preparation.
Maybe because the game was finished.
Oh.
You have to play it through from the beginning again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in this case, it's like we've seen in the other games, Yusuke has spent ages thinking just before entering the end game, normally, for a very long time. In this case, we've played an opening a very long way. Both of them were confident with it, so played relatively quickly, and we're pretty much in the end game already. And I am wondering just how much of his time Yusuke is going to use at this point.
Probably lots of time.
Because he has lots of
Yeah.
time and he likes to use it.
And he can.
Yeah. There are only 12 open squares,
It's okay.
leaving
Just play.
more than 35 minutes.
Mm. Is the analysis off at the moment?
Yeah, I have to replay the
Can you turn
game.
it off at the moment. Thank you. Because we looked at a series of moves that led to the end
Yeah.
of the game, the app
It shut
wouldn't
down
move
there.
backwards. We had to play it from the beginning again.
Don't you need to rotate it?
Yeah, I will rotate it later.
Okay. So Yusuke has played G8 again, cutting the diagonal at the end. White can either, well, I mean, he can cut it, he can take it back again. What were you saying at this point, Nikki? Is this what you were suggesting?
Yeah, to keep the diagonal completely white, but he still can cut it now with A7.
Right.
But it's still a lot of stable discs for white. But maybe he plays B7 now first.
Yeah.
Does he have to play it immediately, A7? I'm not sure yet.
Hmm.
That's probably what he's thinking about.
Well, he's not going to lose the F2 disc without stupidity.
No. Not in there.
So
Final.
what we're saying there is black can cut this diagonal by playing A7, which flips the D4 disc and gives access to everywhere. However, he may not wish to do it immediately. He might wish to consider playing B7, for example. And if he does that, we then ask the question, would he lose access to A7 and his way of cutting the diagonal? The only way that can happen is if the F2 disc is flipped. And the only way in which white can flip that A2 disc
So he plays it.
is G2. And that would give up far too much in the top right corner and lead to the top edge and the bottom and the right edge being all black very quickly. But anyway, Yusuke has chosen to do A7, cutting the diagonal immediately.
So what options are there now for white? A8 immediately, or maybe B8 first, I think.
Yeah, B8 seems better because white can get parity in southwest edge.
If A8, then B7
Yeah.
black. Yeah, B8 first,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, obviously.
So
So why
Now-
does that get parity? It's worth talking about why that gets parity, because that's
now he has 2 out of the 3 moves in the left bottom.
right. Okay, but even more than that. So this is a really interesting position because it's one that you can learn as a trick. But white, when he played B7, left an odd region. And if black doesn't play there, then white plays there again and has already had 2 moves and will get 1 more, so he'll get 3 out of the 4 moves down there. If black had played there, then he would have been, it's difficult to look at it now, but he would have either played B7 or C8, and either move would allow white to take the A8 corner without giving access to the remaining square down there. And it's a common thing that you can use. This game is
One of the quickest finals I've ever seen.
They're like two children in their first tournament.
So is this a draw then?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah?
This is going to be draw.
So what will happen in the case of a draw? How will that affect the next game?
They would need to play the third game, and Yusuke will be ahead on discs and on points, actually. So is that a draw? Can you just confirm?
Yes,
Yes.
it's a draw.
Okay.
draw.
As
So
predicted by
probably
me
a
about 10
perfect draw
minutes
then,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they will need to play the third game. Yusuke will choose what colour he wants to be.
And what was the score of the first game?
34.
34?
Yes.
Oh, so that's still pretty close.
Mhm.
So now they have a little time to prepare for the third game.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to
Since we
take a
have
quick...
time, do we want to look at the women's final?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. Oh, is that one coming on?
And
Yeah.
from what the comments are saying,
Yeah.
it does look like it's a very interesting game right now. So, be interested to see what you think.
Yeah. Should I?
Okay, let's switch to that.
Okay, if I can.
Matches
to
has
the
been
first few
commenting on
moves.
this from the...
Yeah, he's providing German commentary
He's-
on the live stream.
Yeah. Or maybe Chinese.
Is this one flipped as well?
Yes, yes.
Whose move is it?
Okay, I'm just gonna. So you need to just put it in.
Mm-hmm.
So- although we can't do the analysis.
Anyway,
Yeah. So.
I think
Okay.
it's White's turn.
then we don't
Yeah.
need it that day.
And so, if they're talking about it being interesting, why is it interesting?
That would be a question for you.
Yeah, it's because white has two discs on the A4, A5, and black has the four discs right next to it. That looks really odd and weird and bad, but I don't think it isn't. There are no obvious moves for right now, obvious good moves. So, what can white do now?
Right, so it's interesting largely because we're asking the question, it looks like a fairly decent position for white, but what can you do?
Yeah. I don't have a clear answer to that now.
Me neither.
Maybe something like,
If it's black's move now, for example, it would be horrible for black.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that it's white's move
Mhm.
makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
black has to make sure that at least some discs are on the line number 3 and number 6.
Mhm.
Line number 3 and 6, you mean?
Yeah, and so white cannot go to A3 without flipping anything
Right.
else,
Okay,
or
yeah.
A6 without flipping anything else.
So if the third row turns all black and white has access
To A3.
to E3, which he hasn't
Yeah.
at the moment, she
But that's-
hasn't at the moment, then she would take it without flipping along the third row, and therefore she would also get A2 at some point. And the
Yeah.
same is also
With
true
A6 and A7.
of down the bottom of the board. If the E6 disc gets flipped and white has access to A6, then she wouldn't flip along the 6th row, and she would also get a free move at A7. And if both of those happen, she'll be laughing.
And it's
Yeah.
worth reminding everyone that it's Joanna William on white and Zhen Dong is black.
Yes, now maybe white wants to play A3
Yeah.
to get access to E7
E7. Yeah.
and even
Mhm.
to C1 later.
Yeah.
I don't see anything else yet.
What about D8 for white?
D8 now?
D8 now.
Ah, yes, maybe.
Hmm.
Then it's get answered by
Yes.
A6 maybe first,
A6 first and take A7,
and then C8 after.
C8, and B8. Or E8.
For white, yeah. and
Or
then-
E8 or
yeah, then
white after.
Like I said,
Yeah.
E7 still.
Mhm.
So it's between those two. Is there anything else?
Anything else? What about c8?
C8. It looks ugly.
Uh,
Maybe it isn't.
Is there an advantage to playing that? I mean, doesn't it seem like a c8 e8 pair?
mm.
I think I still like a3 because white of black cannot remove the e6
Yeah.
Mhm.
discs
Yeah,
because white
agree.
has access
Right.
to a6.
So,
Mhm.
so to explain that
I
slightly,
agree.
Yeah.
if white plays a3,
He has to do something in the
white
top.
would get access to the nice quiet move that they've been wanting to play all along down at e7. However, what black would normally do in that position is make that e7 move not quite so attractive by playing something like f7 and making sure that white flips at least one extra disc and shares the moves in that region. However, in this case, and it seems to be playing this way,
Yeah.
however, in this case, if black now does play the move that forces white to take an extra disc and share the moves down at the bottom of the board, by flipping, by playing something like f7 and flipping e6, then the sixth row is all black, and white just comes very, very nicely to
And yes,
a6,
a6, a7,
and then has
c8
a7 as a free move,
and c8 after.
and c8 afterwards.
So probably c2 now for black.
Yes.
C2, c1 after.
Mm-hmm.
f1.
F1 right now, or
Well, I'm just putting it out there as an option. It does.
Yeah,
It does
maybe,
give the
yeah.
immediate C2 response.
C2
yeah,
seems
F1,
better.
c2, and then c1.
Mhm.
Or
But still, white keeps the e7.
F3 first. Again, just putting it out there as an option. Just
F3,
because it doesn't
yeah,
flip
maybe.
along.
Mhm.
This is what we mean when we said in the other game. I can't remember which game. The second one of the final. No, the first game of the final. It's worth looking at every move, and the reason is because you may have dismissed them as not good earlier, and they may not look at a superficial glance good. But if you don't look at it, you'll never know if it's good for some weird reason. And often, when you have a long line of discs of one colour, it's worth looking at what happens if you play the other end of that line, because weird things happen. Or you get extra moves just because you're not flipping in a certain direction.
So they're much slower than the other game.
Yeah.
So they have 35 minutes, I believe, total. Or they also have 40.
Okay, so C2 has been played.
Yeah.
I see too, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that the combined time on the clocks from the second game of the men's final is more than the amount of time they would have in a normal Swiss part of the tournament. They still had that left. Okay.
So black has e1 maybe now.
E1 seems natural and right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But now white can also always play b1. I'll
Yeah.
save it for now, but maybe later in the game might be important.
And the reason that white can play b1 is because white already has the left edge, and black would have no access to d1. And so it's a bit scary. It could cause problems later in the game.
Mhm.
But if white finds herself short of moves, it's an option to complicate things. And
So now e7 for white, and something like f3 for black. Seems okay, I guess.
or f1.
Or f1, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. And what about white d1, black b1,
d1 immediately.
then d7? Yeah, d1 immediately
D1,
because
B1.
It,
Yeah.
the move enables white to play f2 after
F2,
black come
yeah.
to f1 right away.
Mm.
So this final is between Australia and China.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts about how this might affect the team rankings?
It won't.
It won't?
And the
Okay.
reason is because the team tournament is closed.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, Japan get even more points just by virtue of having played more games.
And it's just embarrassing for the rest of the world then?
It's already embarrassing. For the
No one's coming close. So D1 is played indeed.
Is it a good idea to b1 immediately? I was asking because f2 is also f1 is possible.
And f2 is possible here as well for black.
Yeah, that's
after,
right. Yeah.
Which is quite a nice move.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it
f2, f3, f1.
F2, F3, F1,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've played out 3 moves without giving white anything.
Yeah.
You've maybe made it difficult for you to play down, further down the board, but the immediate position requires...
That means white's d1 move could be bad move
Maybe.
to give the black good lines.
Oh, you were the one who
Moves.
suggested it.
Yeah, I couldn't see this. I didn't see this.
So white
Yeah.
doesn't have many options now. Maybe the E7 and then
e7,
the
yeah.
F2, F3, F1.
And then white to play again.
And then A6.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of pretty much the last move. But black is running out of moves.
Yeah.
Of good moves too, there.
Even if the black has good lines of moves, f2, f3, f1, white still have a good options by starting with e7 and
Yeah.
afterwards a6.
Yeah. There's also no access to F8 for black then.
And there would be the odd region in the top left, which will possibly allow black to engineer a sacrifice, but it wouldn't be gaining a move because white can just take the top edge afterwards.
Well, black has then
Got to,
got B2 after the A6 later.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Which kind of keeps the game alive as much
Yeah.
as anything.
Yeah.
Or maybe she wants to cut the white wall on the right.
Yeah.
Maybe not. F1, if F1 is played and A6 played after, it doesn't flip B5. So there's no way black will play B2.
That's right. And now that white has white disk on c5, so if black plays f2, white can play g1 instead of f3.
Ah, yes.
Okay, can we go through those one at a time, Nikki? So what you just said
It's-
needs further explanation. It's a
If
like,
black
excellent
F2
point that I hadn't looked at. Yeah,
F2, F3, F1.
which is the combination we were talking about that
Yeah.
doesn't really give white any more.
We were thinking about A6 after, and then B2 for black.
However,
However, B5 stays black.
right, so
Which-
because the last move along that diagonal was after F2, F3, F1 makes the whole of that diagonal from F1 down to B5 black. So when white takes A6, she doesn't flip along that diagonal and the B5 disc stays black. Therefore, the sacrifice at B2
It's really bad.
is really bad
Yeah.
because it flips along
You have
the
three
B
moves
column,
from
which
A2
it wasn't
and-
going to do, and it also flips along the 2 row, and therefore just allows white to take both of the moves in the corner.
Yes, so black might choose something else here. If she's noticing b2 is a black move after the sequence we were talking about. So maybe just f1 here. Something like f5.
Especially if c7, if black can force white to flip c7, then the diagonal move from the edge after f1, f2 down to g3 becomes available.
Yes.
So we're just actually going to be getting this position up on the analysis board because we realise that we're throwing moves out without being able to show you at the moment. Are there any other options for black playing through the white wall in the middle somewhere?
Well, I don't know, maybe f2 or f1 sounds good. I cannot come up with other options.
Okay.
Or if black wants to play b2 in the future, black may consider flipping c2 disc black.
Yep.
On this regard, black f5 could be good move.
That is the one that I was looking at. I
Yeah.
wondered if so we're looking at we've looked at f2 and f1. We've asked questions about which of those. If you're going to play one of them, which one's better? And it's not entirely clear. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. It's worth looking at other moves as well, and one that is difficult to assess, and it's not one that you'd want to do immediately, but f5 flips the 3 diagonal pieces up to c2, and if c2 becomes black, then black can actually make the sacrifice at b2, leaving an even region, offering the corner to white in return for the wedge at a2.
So we're now able to show the analysis on the board.
Okay.
So if we can put that up on the screen.
So what we are saying here is if
like the f2.
so, well, let's do the f1 and the f2 options first.
So f2, f3,
Have we got the analysis board up? Great. Thanks.
f1, a6. It doesn't flip b5, so black cannot play b2 here
Because
because white has 2 good moves on a2, a1, and later on g1.
right,
She's taking
a2 doesn't flip horizontally
Yeah.
there. We've actually had a move on the board, and it's the one
So-
that we were just finally considering.
Yeah.
So the reason that we were considering this one was because, well, first of all, there's no immediate response for white through to c3 to f3.
Yep.
On top of that, it flips the c2 disc, which means now if
it's
black
not
plays b2, if black plays b2, oh, black can't play b2 now, it's white's move. But if black on their next move wants to play b2, they can do so without getting swindled in that top left,
Yeah, so
as
maybe-
happened in the other line.
And then maybe white wants to play a6 now.
Yeah, a6 seems good.
It
If you
removes
want to show
the
it on the analysis.
it removes the options for black to go to b2 and f1,
Yeah.
Which is it's an interesting
and
com-
white gets access to f3 itself.
right, but it's an interesting comparison to do with that b5 disc, because in one line white wanted it to be there because it allowed a swindle if the black tried to make the sacrifice. In a
And now
different
it is the
line,
opposite.
in a
Yeah.
different line, white absolutely doesn't want it to be there because it's the only way that black has to make that sacrifice in the first place.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting kind of view of the global position and how
So-
it's important to consider the rest of the board when you're choosing what to do tactically and locally.
So a6 is played.
Yes.
b7 for black comes in mind first
Mm-hmm.
because it removes white's option to f3.
Mm-hmm.
So So like this, white cannot play here.
Yeah.
That's what she played. Yeah.
Mhm. So maybe white e8 to take c6
To turn disc c6. Yeah.
to enable white to play f3.
Yeah, they are fighting for the move to f3 indeed. Black wants to keep white out of it for now.
Mhm.
Black cannot access f1, so that's really annoying, I guess.
Yes,
Mm.
takes away the sequences that we've been looking up at there.
So what can white do? Maybe also can cut the d5 disc by playing g5.
Or
You wanna
f7.
show it on the
F7.
analysis?
Yeah, g5
Yes,
or
so-
f7.
Like this to cut this one,
Mhm.
to play to f3 later,
Mhm.
or as Kunihiko meant or said, by doing this move for the same reason to
Mhm.
go to f3 later. I think you also have even this move,
Yeah,
also with the same reason by going to f3.
but that gives an immediate natural response.
Natural
Th-
response to f6.
Interestingly,
Yeah.
if white does get down into the a8 corner, it looks like a really bad move because they have no access to a7, but it also denies black access again
To
Mhm.
b2.
to b2.
Mm.
And so, in a weird sense, a very weird sense, that's actually an even region,
Yeah.
including the top 3 squares and a7 as well.
Yeah, black has to move first to a7 and then white can respond with b2.
Yeah.
That's a couple that will be played later in the game, I guess. But for now, which of the three seems...
e8.
You like e8?
I do.
Yeah,
Of the-
g5
of the
has a easy answer to
Yeah.
f6 as well.
Okay.
That's the last of the three,
Mm.
with the natural response, as Guy mentioned.
Yeah.
But either way, either of those moves or any of those moves actually also gives access to f3, which
Yeah.
is very nice.
Yeah, and it also poisons black by playing something like g4 after.
Mhm.
So now probably f6 looks...
Yeah. So do you want to
Really
show
good.
what you meant by that poison comment? So if you play
if
f6.
this, for example, is played,
and then a very nice move for white,
f3,
and now g4, which would have been a good move taking only
Yeah.
one piece, suddenly flips diagonally up to the top edge.
Mm.
It looks
and
really ugly.
And it's really ugly
Yeah.
and gives white loads of options.
I'm skeptical if black needs to hurry for f6 at this position, because if
Yeah, white
Black's
cannot
a
move
good
there
question.
either.
if
by
black
removing-
play g4,
Yeah.
f6 is a black's square.
Yeah, she can move there first, then the f3, then maybe f6,
Yeah.
and then e2 is still...
Right, and she's
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that gets around the poison problem.
Yeah,
So it's kind of reverse
Mhm.
engineering from the
Mhm.
normal line.
she noticed that problem.
Mhm.
But one thing that white could do here is take the corner now, because that flips the c6
Yeah,
disc
Yeah.
that looks
and
really good.
removes black's access from
Mhm.
f6.
Oh, that's right.
One of the interesting things that Matthias has noticed in his commentary is that both of these have been previous world champions.
Mhm.
Have they faced off against each other in world championship rounds, in your memory?
Not in my
Mm.
memory, that's I'm not
No.
sure.
Not sure.
No idea.
I was playing myself, so... So maybe someone in the chat knows.
You can always comment on the Matthias's YouTube stream.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is he doing it in Chinese?
German.
German?
Yeah.
Yeah, he considered Chinese just because there's 2 Chinese speakers playing. And whilst he does speak Chinese, I'm not sure that it's good enough to do a full analysis. I wouldn't know.
maybe.
I wouldn't know.
No, me neither.
So Nick, your suggestion is E8 at this position? White E8?
To re...
Oh yeah, that also flips the C6 disc.
Yeah,
I guess it
But
prevents
although
black from going...
D8 can get that move back.
yeah.
But then it's
I prefer taking the corner, A8.
immediate
A8.
by removing that disc.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do we have the analysis on the screen? Okay, great.
Okay, so
So A8
what
you
we're
said?
thinking is that black has a very nice move at the moment to F6.
So you want to
which is-
remove it by either A8
Oh,
or E8.
so
Right.
what's it?
See those
Good
your
move.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
So
that
this looks
leaves,
pretty good, yeah.
I think that leaves less options for black down on the bottom edge
Yeah,
than
that's right.
playing
That's right.
So what can black...
E8.
Hmm.
This move will be really hard for black. It's
So
either A7,
yeah, almost.
but
yeah,
then
it's forced.
forced, but then
almost.
white plays B8 and it's
Yeah, B8.
removing the move to F6 again.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Then
the
C8.
C8, yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
maybe, yeah.
the hive mind at Live Othello do say that these two have faced each other in previous World Championships. 2014 in Bangkok. Matthias had suggested possibly 2016, but I'm not sure if both are correct or if it's just the 1 year in Bangkok that they've played in the final round.
And
Who
who
won
won?
that?
Yeah.
Ask the hive mind who won that one.
And
So
black
F3
played
is played.
F3. Black played F3. It is a move that we haven't taken a look at.
Right. No,
So
I would.
maybe
think that-
B2 for white even? Or is that too loud?
It's too early.
Too heavy?
You want black to take A7 first.
Yeah, maybe.
But maybe F1, G1, playing out the top edge, and then F2. Black has to play.
And then you have your disc on D4 to go to
Mhm.
F6 later. Oh, this is played
Or-
already.
No, sorry, I got excited.
Yeah.
Mm.
So now she has her disc on D4
Yeah.
if black removes F2.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So black now has a big decision to make,
So
and
she's played that
she's
pretty quick.
quite happy making that big decision.
Mm.
So this
So what about white F8?
F8, yeah, that's what I was looking
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
at first.
C8
Then-
doesn't look too bad, bizarrely.
C8.
Yeah.
C8 allows black to move both B8 and
It does.
A7.
But after B8, white plays C8 and doesn't
G7.
flip anything on the outside.
Yeah.
So black is going to have to play A7,
Mm-hmm.
and white can save the edge by playing B2
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, someone in chat,
So
Ben,
before
is
doing
mentioning G7 now. Or
G7.
later in the game.
G7.
As for black later. But that seems...
G7, then H8, F1 is the sequence he's
Okay,
suggested.
so no, we have to be careful here. The boards flip on Live Othello.
Ah, I see.
Oh.
So it's the B2 move,
Yeah.
which I meant earlier maybe.
But I just think that right now isn't needed and gives far
Yeah,
too many discs to black.
Yeah.
And in answer to that, in 2014, Joanna won.
Okay.
Joanna won.
Okay.
So can we just have a reminder of who's black here?
Reminder, Joanna is playing white.
Okay.
Ah, I
So
didn't
this
consider
is
that
similar
move.
similar to my C8 suggestion. The idea being that if black now plays C8, white can play D8 and
And
doesn't
F8.
change anything on the outside of the board.
Mm.
And she doesn't mind black playing a7 because she always have b2.
Yeah.
Mm.
So something like, oh, she's played
Black
here.
play G6.
So now just d8 then, to continue that plan.
Yeah.
G8, did you say?
d8, d8.
D8, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then,
Or even F8 first.
yeah, that's a nice move too, I think.
It seems to get an extra little
Yeah.
benefit.
Black's running out of moves now, quickly. So after d8, what can black do? Yeah, I think you're forced in g3,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but F8 first.
or f8. Yeah. So black doesn't want to play g8.
Well, you say that, but
Yeah, but she's
what
running out of
sort
moves.
Yeah, and
So
if black doesn't play G8, white
yeah, that's
I
the
mean,
white's
white's
remaining.
got some nice
Mm-hmm.
rubbing salt in the wounds move coming up.
What about g7 now? For white,
Oh, it's possible.
like this.
Yeah, that's the one I meant as rubbing salt
Ah,
into the wound.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like I'm going to win, but
Yeah, g7.
this is
Then
really gonna hurt.
she's running out of moves, and something like c8, d8, a7, b2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, then if this is played, then black has to move here.
And white has always got the parity at the end of the game as
Yeah.
well, and
Sure.
should have no problem keeping that because white has all the options.
I think she has lots of time, so she's checking everything maybe with that move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, g7 should kill it, I think. What else can she do? Maybe just d8 first,
Yeah, possibly.
c8, and then g7. But I don't like the black disc on c8. She does it immediately. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because she can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, black's in trouble. So is there any outs for black here?
No.
I doubt it.
Mm.
A7 right away. Does it help? I don't think so. She always responds with b2.
Yeah.
And then you have to play to h7.
Yeah.
And this is
And no matter what sequence you use.
yeah.
That's-
This is what we were talking about before it had actually been played. It looks like the A7 gives parity.
Yeah, the a7 b2
a
couple.
superficial glance, it looks like A7 is a parity game for black.
Yeah.
However, as soon as black cannot play out the odd region at the top, so as soon as black plays A7, white goes to B2, and the white region at the top is even again.
Okay, so I like this move for black.
Mm-hmm.
And
From the options she had, at least.
to see also why black cannot play out the region at the top. They have no access to B2 because white took the corner earlier and the B7 disc. And if black plays to A2, then it's trivial for white to take the A1 corner and black to have no access to B2 because all of the discs around it are black.
So h7, I think that's a nice move, considering the options she had.
Yeah.
So now what for white? Just f6 comes in mind first.
Yep.
Like f6, and you have to respond by g5. Then what? AH,
Mm-hmm.
AH, G8. Then you have no, you're not losing parity anywhere on the board, so this should be an easy white win as well.
Mm-hmm.
What about H6 for white to give it more? That's a bit too loud again. It doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
She just go by the F6. Yeah, answered quickly by G5 indeed.
Just check it.
Mm-hmm.
The rules are, by the way, if your disc touches the board, then you must play the square where it touches if it's a legal move.
She took it back.
Yeah, so
She probably not touched the board then.
almost certainly not touch the board. Otherwise the referee will be saying something about it.
Ah. So G5. Just to keep it simple by playing H8.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be the best move, maybe, but she doesn't have to complicate it, I think.
It's a one-game final.
Yeah, so
You
a
look-
win
you-
is a win.
Yeah, and
Discs aren't
absolutely, you
important,
find
yeah.
the win, you play
Yeah.
it, and you stop worrying.
What else might she be thinking about? Something like H4
Mm.
seems a nice move.
Yeah.
It gives black only poor options, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like H4, H3, H2. It's killing it again. Or H4, H5.
But you'd really only be looking at these moves
Yeah.
if you thought that H8
Yeah,
didn't win.
this is just the easy.
This is often over this week, over these last few days, I've found that these have been the hardest games to commentate, where you know that one person's just winning,
Yeah, I can imagine.
and
Yeah.
you're looking for other alternatives, and they're just not there. So you end up stating the obvious.
Yeah. I think Joanna was first in the Swiss as well.
I can pull up the standings.
They were both on 8th.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so wherever black goes now, white has an immediate and obvious
Yeah.
answer.
Just D8 here.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that helps.
Mm.
So after this one game left.
Which is a bonus treat.
Yeah, bonus treat. And for sure the last game, no matter what happens.
And of the games that we've been watching in this, ooh, okay, not going to make much difference, but of the games that we've been watching in this since the Swiss tournament, it has been the Tanida I'm sorry, not Tsuda. The Takahashi games that have been like throwing in curveballs that make it interesting. So I'm glad the extra game is going to be those two again.
Yeah, definitely. Even though this second game of them was really fast. Probably a perfect draw. The last game should be exciting, I guess.
And so that will start live streaming in about 30 minutes from now. So we'll see the end of the women's final, have a short break, and then we will be streaming the third game of the men's final.
And although I'm very pleased for Takahashi to have reached the men's final, it does mean that we missed out on a youth final, which was a shame.
Yeah, that would have been fun too. Yeah.
And the youth have added an extra dimension since we introduced it a few years ago. The youth have added a new dimension to World Othello Championships because apart from the exceptionally strong Japanese youth, a lot of the youth are learning the game and still learning it. Not that anybody ever stops learning, but are not competitive with many of the top adult players. And therefore their games are interesting for other reasons because you can see what they're trying to do, you can see the things they've learned, and you can...
They improve really fast.
They improve really fast, and their games can sometimes be more exciting because mistakes can happen.
Yeah.
So it's not
very
true for,
unpredictable.
It's not true for Takahashi, but yeah, some of the most fun games that I watched this year and last year. And it's also educational about the order in which people learn stuff, and so therefore how we can teach it. Watching children sit down and try hard for half an hour can inform us very strongly about a good educational method. And I think that's something that you've had in Japan for a long time.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world is playing catch up a bit with Junior Othello.
Yeah.
We did a really interesting interview yesterday with Jens Algaard and Alberta Nilsson, who's one of the juniors. And Jens is doing some really interesting educational work with the juniors in Denmark and going into schools, into math classes. So if you want to see that interview, that's posted on the YouTube channel and shared on the other various social medias.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'll take a look at it. Is it on YouTube? That's what you said?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Over the last 3 days, we've conducted interviews with over 40 people, and so those have all been posted to YouTube. So there's lots
see.
of content for you to watch in the coming weeks and hear what some of your favorite players have to say about their games in the World Championship and why they love Othello.
I pity Matthias having to commentate on this on his own.
It looks like he's having a lively discussion with Ben on Live Othello. They're having quite a nice chat together, so I think that's
About the game?
mostly about the game. They're suggesting a number of very loud options right now, so if anyone wants to read through them.
That's just the words that they're using.
Yes. And how much time
Yeah.
do the players have left?
We haven't got a
It's at the top.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this is from Live Othello, which is not always totally accurate, but it's normally a good guide. And Zhendong has 10 minutes left, and Joanna William has 6 minutes left. So
lots of time yet.
yeah. But sadly, not much to think
Yeah,
about.
I think it should be over pretty quickly. It's good she thinks of all options. Maybe there's something in it still. Not in this case, probably, but it's always worth considering every move.
Yeah.
So the live Othello chat has deteriorated from being about the game to saying hello to people who are in different countries.
Which kind of is one of the other things about the Othello community that's been really obvious here at the World Championship. It's a great, very supportive community of people across the world. We had 22 nations represented here, is that correct, Guy?
23.
23 this year. And obviously some very vibrant and lively games and friendships and competitions have sprung up, so that's been really exciting to see. In the interviews that I mentioned on YouTube, we interviewed probably about people from 15 countries, so that's somewhere around there.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the Othello community is one of the reasons that I persisted after my first tournament. It was really strong right from the beginning. And it's not that the Othello is not important, but it's something that you have in common with the people that play it, and it gives a really solid foundation for friendships across the world. You don't necessarily see people that often, but you know that when you do, it's easy to pick up where you left off because you have something so strong in common. And whilst it's competitive, it's also friendly. So Luke used to play county chess, and you'd go to the tournaments and the parents would be there with their computers and binoculars looking from a balcony at their children's games, and afterwards they'd take them aside and, why did you play this move? And doesn't happen in Othello. In Othello, you lose a game and your opponent helps you and says, did you think about this? You know, you should learn from this.
True.
It's really nice.
And in one of my interviews yesterday, one of the players was saying how he was playing one of the juniors and knew that he was going to win, but kind of allowed for some extra time so that the junior could feel good and have the time. So he would let his clock run while the junior had some time to think and look at the board to think about moves. So I think that there's a lot of generosity and a lot of support that I've been able to see in the fellow community here.
Yeah, and when Jan's board was messed up, so this is Jan de Graaf, the Dutch player, was in a game where, I can't remember who he was playing, Lee? Cheng?
Maverick.
Yoko?
Wasn't Maverick.
Huh?
Yoko?
No.
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 But anyway, the board got messed up, and it wasn't
Chun Wai, I think. Chun Wai Lee.
maybe. But the board got messed up, and Jan wasn't happy with his opponent, who was short on time, adjusting the discs in his time. So he didn't know the proper protocol, so he pushed the clock and said, "You do that in your own time," and it got into a ding dong of pushing the clock. No, it's your move. I'm going to push the clock. No, you're trying to tidy up the discs and you do that in your time. And so the referees got involved, used the transcript to recreate the position, set the times, and then they tried to finish the game. And And Jan was very careful to try to give his opponent as much time to flip the discs as possible. So he would make his move, and then he would pause and he would say, "Are you ready to try and flip your discs?" And his opponent would say yes, and then he'd push the clock, and he would allow. He didn't want it to be a loss on time if artificially. He didn't want to use that as a tactic, well, given the circumstances. I mean, we've all used it.
Probably.
If your opponent's short on time, you can give them more discs to flip. Especially if you're losing on the board, it works.
Okay, we have another move.
We have a move. Creating an even region at the top, which white has to play into first. But
That might be nice, yeah. So anyway, even D8 right away.
or H3.
H3 first, maybe.
But again, what we're doing is we're distinguishing between different winning lines.
Yeah, it's a win. H3 indeed. She wants the parity there. So D8 will be our last move then.
Mm.
It can be.
But if she's treating it like that, she's actually making that weird 4, the top 3 in the left, and A7 into a 5. Which,
Did you want to show that on the analysis?
well,
Mhm.
yeah.
Which one?
So, if white is leaving D8 to the last move,
So G2 then?
well, it's black's move now, isn't it? So just say G2. What would white do now?
H1.
Okay, and then
H1.
H2.
H2.
And my point is that if A1 now, black can at least save the left edge.
Yeah. From A2 to,
because
to A7.
yeah.
So something
Whereas
like
it's probably better just to take E8.
now it's not flipping the A5.
Right. So leaving that move to the end allows
Yeah.
black to play out the left-hand side a bit more nicely. Another losing line.
Seems like there are a number of options, but none of them are a win for black.
Yeah. And when you're sitting there and you realise that that's the case, it's the most depressing time to play the end of the
Yeah.
game. You know you're just playing out a loss. You're desperate to find something that you know is not there. Okay, so A7 has now been played, and we expect
B2.
Okay, so D8 may well be the last move now anyway.
I don't think so. If blacks do something like H2, then D8 will be played first.
It's true.
Mm.
I said may.
May, yeah. It may be.
I just tried to move to the left slightly to see if I could see the clock. Then I realised I'm watching a 2-dimensional television.
It's 6 minutes and like 1 minute. Now it might be the last move. D8.
Still might not be.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's true. No, it isn't. It isn't.
And a very nice white win.
Yeah. She killed it
Flipping
pretty
it.
fast.
There we go. Thank you.
One more? One? Oh no, that's it. This one is.
What you may have seen there was the clock being pressed. even though one player didn't play.
That's
If there's a pass, the convention is that the person who can't play pushes the clock, and that counts as their move, and then it goes back to the other player, which sometimes gets interesting if someone's short on time, because you see a very, very quick double click, one person then the other.
So a pretty convincing win.
Yeah.
Very convincing. And it was.
She killed it pretty quickly. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm guessing the men have had quite a break already, so I'm suggesting that we have one as well.
Yes. So I think it will be about 10 to 15 minutes before the next game starts. So we have a short break, and then we'll be back with the live feed of the third game of the men's final.
Which should be really exciting.